Hello everybody and welcome to another Shaman video. Today we're going to be talking about the new upcoming Shadowlands changes for the Shaman class for both Elemental and Enhancement. I'm pretty excited about these changes and there's a lot to go over, so I'm going to be linking the Wowhead link in the description down below so you guys can check out the changes on your own time as well. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. Now, before we actually get started, I just wanted to quickly mention how appreciative and grateful I am for the support that I've been getting on my Twitch channel. We recently reached our sub goal, so if you guys are wondering why I am bald, well, the sub goal was to shave my head when we reached that. So a big shout out to you guys, and this would be the sponsorship of my video essentially. If you guys want to check out my Twitch channel, I'll be leaving the link to the description down below. And you guys can just go there, ask me questions, hang out on stream. You can also find the link to my Discord community as well, where you can have access to my custom Shaman weak auras, as well as my UI for Elv UI, if you are connecting your Twitch account to your Discord and subbing to the channel. Thank you so much. Let's get right into the video. Start off with a generalized change for the Shaman class, which I think is pretty welcome, and that is the removal of Searing Totem. Now, currently on the alpha, Searing Totem kind of like is a set and forget, but it also doesn't really work half the time, and that's kind of an issue, as well as it not doing much damage when it does actually work. It's kind of like a unimpactful cooldown. It's way too long for the amount of damage that it does, and it really didn't fit into the current style of the Shaman spec, which is kind of like not using it. No, but really, like, back in Warlords or Draenor, it kind of functioned the exact same. It was on a 30-second cooldown. It lasted 30 seconds, it attacked your enemies. It was worth the GCD, but it felt really bad putting down and using that GCD when you had other things happening. So the fact that they're actually removing it is a blessing in disguise. I know a lot of people really like Searing Totem. Maybe they would like to see it implemented into like the Totem Mastery talent, and that would be really, really cool. But I would also kind of miss the additional Flame Shock damage that the Fire Totem currently gives you in Totem Mastery, as far as like the elemental side goes. But honestly, I'm happy with the removal of Searing Totem. I didn't really use it much playing on the alpha to begin with because I wanted to press X like other spells, so I'm happy with that. Let's talk about the actual Elemental Shaman changes, where I know a lot more about it, and then we'll get into the enhanced stuff afterwards. So Fulmination has been changed slightly to where it is a guaranteed proc from a Lightning Bolt or Lightning Bolt Overload. This is really, really good because there was times where I kind of was just casting Chain or Lightning Bolt several times in a row and I wasn't really getting anywhere in my rotation. Being like, I want to keep Lava Burst on cooldown, keep Flame Shock up on the target, right? And if I'm not getting a Lightning Bolt procs, where's my Earthshock damage? How am I using my Earthshock spell? Like a significantly, I want to call like important, it's a very important part of the Shaman or the elemental aesthetic is to get those Earth Shocks out. But it's just like, I'm sitting here, I'm waiting for that 5-stack. Oh, okay, I'm waiting. I'm not really getting any Fulmination stacks. This is the current iteration. Okay, now I'm at 6. I've casted Lightning Bolt like 10 times. Okay, now I'm at 8. There we go. And then, boom, the final delivery of the massive Earth Shock that it took me almost an entire minute, I want to say, to actually get off. Now, this is a really welcome change because it kind of speeds up the rotation a little bit in single target, and I'm pretty happy about that. But the next part, I'm not entirely fond of, which is the decoupling of Chain Lightning from Fulmination. I really liked how Chain Lightning gave you both Fulmination stacks and Seismic Thunder stacks because it gave you the choice in a AoE or a cleave target scenario where if there's 3 targets and I'm casting Chain Lightning instead of Lightning Bolt, I'm now like generating Fulmination as well in order for me to dump single target priority damage into something that needs to die first. So rather than me switching to Lava Bursts or only putting down Earthquakes, I would actually have the choice to dump another resource into a priority target. This felt good. It was nice to have that choice. I don't necessarily agree with them taking it away, but I understand why they're doing it, because they kind of want you to separate your single target generators from your cleave and AoE generators. I get that. But with the removal of Maelstrom, I now cannot do priority damage by casting Chain Lightning. I have to switch my rotation. Okay, let me rephrase. I can now not spend Earth Shocks in a priority target in an AoE situation by generating resources through Chain Lightning. Currently on live, I can do that, and it feels really good because I can generate a lot of Maelstrom really quickly in like a 5-target scenario, and then dump an Earth Shock that crits for like 200k into the target that needs to die, whether it's bolstering weak or if it's an honor guard in a Taldazar, or like a commander in Siege of Borealis that's not going to die like the other mobs. Like, I need to be able to spend resources into single target there. So I don't necessarily agree with this change where it's decoupling Fulmination with Chain Lightning. I hope they fix it. I really want that to be coming back, and if you guys agree with me, definitely post on the forums what you think about the changes, and leave a comment down below if you either agree with me or if you disagree with me for whatever reason and want to share your thoughts. So I'm intrigued for your answer is what I'm saying. Okay, so Earthquake's base damage has been reduced significantly. Hold on. Before you rage in the comments, let's explain. But Seismic Thunder now also increases the damage of Earthquake for each stack of Seismic Thunder consumed when cast. This is a good thing. It's a blessing in disguise, kind of like the Searing Totem removal, and I'll tell you why. Right now, on the alpha, I don't know if you guys know about this, but I talked about this a while ago. Earthquake kind of doesn't have... Hold on, I have the wrong weapons on. Earthquake doesn't have a cooldown and has a cast time of 3 seconds reduced with haste, right? But it's dealing like a lot of freaking damage. So let's look at these numbers: 228, 227 on like non-crit, 569 non-crit. But my Chain Lightning non-crit hits for 274, but it can overload. Oh boy, 683 crit. If my Chain Lightning is a 1.9 second cast, I did the math, I posted this on the forums. This is just a refresher. Earthquake is a 2.8 second cast, but I'm trying to cast Chain Lightnings in order to get Earthquakes out. Why am I not just casting Earthquakes? Because it's gonna do more overall damage. It's ticking faster than me casting a Chain Lightning into the target, and I'm just able to spam it and get more Earthquakes on the ground. So it didn't make sense in the current iteration of the alpha to actually cast Chain Lightning in AoE situations, which sounds really silly, but it was true. You had more throughput by just casting Earthquake, which is really funny to see, honestly. And I'm glad that they're changing it because I don't want to do this rotation. It's really boring. So yes, this is a blessing in disguise. It's kind of back to the old Cataclysm way. If you guys played Elemental Shaman in Cataclysm at all, your Chain Lightnings had the same interactions with your Earthquakes, giving you those stacks that increased your Earthquake damage, but it didn't have a cast time to it. You needed, like in Cataclysm, you had to have a certain amount of stacks in order to even cast an Earthquake, but those stacks also increased the damage of Earthquake, if that makes sense, the way I explained it. But this time, like, you still have a cast time for Earthquake. Seismic Thunder is now reducing the cast time of that Earthquake, but also increasing that Earthquake's damage. So this is a welcome change. It means we're actually going to have more interaction between Chain Lightning and Earthquake, and our Stormkeeper spell. Like, Stormkeeper is going to be huge now. Like, you cast it once, Earthquake, another Chain Lightning, Earthquake. Like, insane. And if you couple that with Echoing Shock, your Echoing Shock also duplicates the Stormkeeper Chain Lightning, so it'll overload on everything again. So you can get 3 instant Earthquakes out if you use Echoing Shock correctly, and they're all buffed fully by Fulmination. Or not by Fulmination, by Seismic Thunder. It's a really cool interaction. I can't wait for more people to get like alpha or beta access to test this out. But like, I think that's going to be the norm, honestly, for Mythic Plus, and I'm really excited about it because it's pretty cool. Okay, so we talked about Earthquake. Let's move on. Fire Elemental. This is a really good change. I like this a lot too. If you could tell, I'm really hyped about these changes. So previously, interaction with the Fulmination proc chance has been redesigned. While Fire Elemental is active, the period of Flame Shock is reduced, which increases the DPS of any active Flame Shock debuffs on targets when you summon it, and increases the chance of Lava Surge effect. So now we have more chances for Lava Surge to proc while Fire Elemental is out. We'll pull that up here. Your Flame Shock damage over time effect has a 15% chance to reset the remaining cooldown of Lava Burst. So if you think about this, each tick has a 15% chance baseline, but the Fire Elemental is reducing that duration, so the Flame Shocks are ticking faster, which means a higher chance for it to proc on that alone, but the Fire Elemental is also increasing the chance for it to proc. You see what I'm saying here? So like, technically, if you couple your Fire Elemental cooldown with Ascendance, you could essentially be casting Ascendance Lava Bursts way faster, potentially, by having 3 Flame Shocks out, summoning your Fire Elemental, then popping Ascendance, and then you just instant casting Lava Bursts because you may be getting procs back to back. And then those Lava Bursts are dealing increased damage for your crit. So there could be multiple potential builds in raids. And with the addition to Spirit Walker's Grace, Ascendance is no longer a crutch. We can actually cast Ascendance and Spirit Walker's Grace at the same time and cast Lava Burst while moving. I'm super excited about this. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be super fun to play. I just hope that they balance it properly and it's not one way or the other. Like, we're way too weak at the start of the expansion, or we're way too strong and then we get nerfed into the ground and then we have a problem catching back over the entire expansion. That is my fear, but the prospect of this spec is going to be fantastic. I can't wait. Okay, the next part of the Fire Elemental is that any new Flame Shocks that you apply during Fire Elemental have their duration increased by 100%. So instead of your Flame Shocks lasting 18 seconds, now they'll last 27 seconds? Think I'm doing that math right? Is it 100%? Yeah, it should be. It's not 200%. So times what? I don't know. It's just 100%. I don't. Put it in the comment section down below. I can't do math right now. Lightning Shield. Let's move on to that so I can just get on with it. Lightning Shield now grants a shaman a charge of fulmination when it deals damage to an enemy. So currently, the way that Lightning Shield interacts is melee attackers have a 100% chance to suffer nature damage. So that's the shield proccing. This is a good change for leveling, and I really, really like that. But I feel like it doesn't really matter in raiding situations or dungeon situations unless you like have aggro on mobs. And that's a little, like, I like the change for leveling, don't get me wrong, but outside of leveling, it doesn't make a difference. Why am I putting Lightning Shield on if it's not proccing when I'm taking damage? So like, melee attackers have a 100% chance to proc Lightning Shield, but why doesn't an AoE effect proc it? Like it used to do that. It used to proc an AoE effect back in the day. I guess, when's the last time we had Lightning Shield? Miss of Pandaria or Warlords of Draenor before the Maelstrom change? Like, where you had stacks of Lightning Shield that gave you damage increase on your Earth Shocks. I believe that was late Miss of Pandaria, early Warlords of Draenor. Anyway, so back then, like, Lightning Shield procced off damage that you took, or it had a chance to proc off damage that you took. So the way that the tooltip is worded right now, it has a 100% chance to suffer, or like melee attackers have a 100% chance to suffer nature damage. But what about like if I just take damage from from like any boss ability or any ability in a dungeon, is it still proc? Am I still getting a chance to have an extra fulmination stack? Like, inquiring minds would like to know. Hopefully they can update the tooltip to where it's a little bit more clear on that. I would like to know, because that would be a really cool interaction. Again, great for leveling. I don't know for raiding or dungeon content. Moving on, Echo the Elements no longer grants a second charge of Healing Stream Totem. For Elemental Shaman, this is... I know it was a bug, because it's only meant for Resto Shaman, but like... Man, it's so strong to have 2 Healing Stream Totems as an Elemental Shaman. They're taking for 372 HP. This was so strong. This was so strong. Like, I don't even... It's crazy because having 2 Healing Stream Totems with the Kyrian Covenant ability, Vesper Totem, was actually really, really strong, because you could, like, the Healing Stream Totem procs the healing ability off of Vesper Totem, and so does Ancestral Guidance. So within 3 literal GCD times, you could have all 3 of those healing orbs proc off of your Vesper Totem just by casting Ancestral Guidance and your 2 Healing Stream Totems. But at the same time, if you cast Ancestral Guidance, any damage or healing that you do is converted to more healing on 3 injured nearby party or raid members. So it's like the healing that you got from the Healing Stream Totem was now also going back into Ancestral Guidance, but also the Vesper Totem healing was also getting converted into more healing from Ancestral Guidance, and it was just a lot of healing. Like, an absurd amount of healing on like a minute cooldown with your Vesper Totem, and then a 2-minute cooldown with your Ancestral Guidance. It was crazy. We didn't need a healer in most dungeons because of that. So it was really, really cool to have that, like, off healing capabilities. It's not as strong with just 1 Healing Stream Totem, but like, it's still pretty crazy to be able to get out as much off healing as you can, even with 1 Healing Stream Totem that you're putting down every 30 seconds, and it lasts for 15 seconds. Like, that's amazing. We could have had 100% uptime on Healing Stream Totem. Actually, technically not. Maybe like, yeah, never mind. That math doesn't really check out in my head. So it was really cool. It was really cool to have that. I understand why they're nerfing it, but like, come on, it was so awesome. Okay, let's move on. Enhancement. Such great changes for enhancement. Unfortunately, no talent changes right now for Elemental Shaman, but that's okay. I'm really excited about the enhancement changes. They look so good. Let's quickly swap over weapons. Is that my Wind Fury? Yep. Okay, so weapons and trinkets. Okay. So currently, Rockbiter has now been removed. It's no longer in the spec. I mean, right now it is, because I'm still on the previous build of Alpha. This one hasn't been released yet. This is actually a really good change, because Rockbiter doesn't really have an interaction unless you're spec'd into Boulder Fist and Landslide, which I don't really want to play, because, again, like they're saying in the post, like, there's no more Maelstrom interaction with Rockbiter, so I don't really want to press it. I didn't even press it much on live to begin with, because I was just getting so many Stormbringer procs. So this is a good change, and then they're moving around some talents and fixing things up. So let's get into it. Rockbiter has now been removed. Just a quick note, this is a big change we're trying out. Yep, Rockbiter in Shadowlands basically only serves as a GCD filler. True. With the removal of Maelstrom and Flameshock and Frostshock becoming class-wide abilities that are also on a short cooldown to fill empty slots, there's a lot of competition in the 6-second cooldown space of available buttons. Without Maelstrom, Rockbiter didn't have any strong interaction with the rest of Enhancement Toolkit, and shock spells are a much more iconic Shaman ability. True. True. Big true. This is an experimental change. Please try this out in combination with the changes below to let us know how things feel. So I highly recommend that if you guys think that this is a good change, comment down below. I would love to read your comments. I'm gonna read all of your comments, and I'm gonna heart the ones that I think are the coolest, and also need some love. Also, post on the forums, give your feedback for what you think the playstyle is going to change to, or if you have access to alpha and want to test it out, obviously do so, and then give your feedback on the forums. So Lava Lash, this is a little bit of a leveling change. This isn't really impacting later levels, but this is still a nice change. So Lava Lash is now learned at level 11, down from 22. Base cooldown increased to 18 seconds from 12 seconds. This is just giving us another ability while we're leveling, which is great. And now Lava Lash has a rank 2 spell, and it is granted at level 22 and has its base cooldown reduced to 12 seconds. So it's good because we get Lava Lash earlier, so we get to playstyle. We get that playstyle earlier, and then we get the added benefit when we initially had it. Storm Strike's cooldown has been reduced to 7.5 seconds from 9 seconds. So currently, Storm Strike's cooldown is still affected by haste, so it's like 7.5 seconds, but also still affected by haste. So like with the haste that I have right now, that's gonna go down to like 6.8 seconds, I guess. Minus 7. Yeah, 6.8. Cool. Maelstrom weapon, or maximum Maelstrom weapon stacks have been increased from 5 to 10. This is actually a really good change, and I'll show you why as soon as I find out. Wind Fury is no longer... No. Okay. So this is a really good change because there's going to be situations in our current combat scenario where we'll just jump from 3 Maelstrom weapon to 5. And then we have things that are coming off cooldown that we want to press, and we're just kind of like, man, I can't press my other abilities. I have to get rid of my Maelstrom weapon because I don't want to overload on my Maelstrom weapon and then waste potential stacks. So this is actually really good. And then later on in the post, it also says each stack of Maelstrom weapon now grants increased damage and healing to abilities that Maelstrom weapon affects, in addition to the cast time reduction. But abilities that are altered by Maelstrom weapons have their baseline damage or healing values reduced. This is actually a really important change. And I'll tell you why, because currently Maelstrom weapon is just reducing the cast time of your spells. But if I look at like my chain lightning damage, it's 274. Does that number look familiar? Because that's pretty much the same amount of damage that was coming out of my Elemental Shaman while casting Chain Lightning. It was doing the same damage as an Elemental Shaman's Chain Lightning, and I can just spam it. So that doesn't really make sense. So this is actually a really good change because it's not only getting rid of that like comparison issue, but also if I'm like at 8 stacks or 9 stacks of Maelstrom weapon and my cooldowns are up again, I'm not gonna feel bad spending those Maelstrom weapon stacks lower than the max cap, because now I can focus more on the fluidity of my rotation rather than, oh crap, everything's up at the same time, which button do I press, right? So it gives you a lot better choice when you're in a combat scenario, and you're going to be wasting a lot less of your Maelstrom weapon stacks. So I really like this change. Let's talk about Stormbringer. So Stormbringer no longer causes your next Storm Strike to not incur a cooldown. So currently, the way that it works is it resets the remaining cooldown of Storm Strike and then triggers no cooldown. So this is fine. The no cooldown is fine because we still have the first effect of Stormbringer. And with the cooldown reduction that they implemented on Storm Strike from 9 seconds to 7.5 seconds, this isn't as bad of a change, actually. And not to mention, when we get into the talents, you'll begin to see why they're making these kind of changes. So Feral Spirits now also grants 1 stack of Maelstrom weapon immediately when you press it, instead of just doing nothing when you press it and then them charging at you. So this feels like a better cooldown now. Something actually happens more aggressively when you cast that cooldown. That's fantastic. And on top of that, I am gaining more Maelstrom weapon stacks for the duration of the Feral Spirit. So I only gained 1, I think, but that was probably because I rock bitered. I rock bit. I did the thing. So yeah, I'm glad that they're doing this. Adding effects to GCDs that are cooldowns, like that are iconic cooldowns, and then just giving them something that when you press it, something happens. That's fantastic. I would love to see something like this for Lava Burst interaction on Ascendance. Like if I Ascendance, maybe it like flame shocks my current target or sends out a flame shock in a 6-yard radius on my target and everything around, or like two additional targets around it, right? Maybe not everything, because that would be pretty OP. But yeah, like that would be fantastic if casting Ascendance had an interaction like this. That would be super cool. Or like I cast Ascendance and then it sends out a lava burst onto the target that I'm currently targeting. That would be cool, because that would have a really cool interaction with like the Necro Lord's Necro Bolt. Maybe, if that would work properly. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Each target that you hit with Chain Lightning now both increases the damage of and reduces the cooldown of your next Crash Lightning. This is cool. This is really cool, because currently Crash Lightning doesn't have an interaction with your AoE. It can proc Stormbringer, but unless I'm running Crashing Storms, there's really no added benefit outside of just the pure damage that Crash Lightning does. So this is fantastic. This speeds up my AoE rotation a lot. It's almost like the interaction between Chain Lightning and Earthquake, honestly. Like, this is a cool interaction. I really like this. I can't wait to see what it's gonna do. Let's move on to Wind Fury Totem. So right now, the iconic Wind Fury Totem is back in the game, but it's only a 12-yard radius, which is a little not quality of life. Honestly, like having to replace this totem all the time because I'm running out of range of it. Look at this. I'm in range. I'm out of range. I'm in range. Nope, I'm out of range. I'm in range. Like, that's way too short of a distance. And not to mention that it is a big must to have down for your raid and like your melee group. This is a welcome change. 30-yard radius is fantastic. 30 yards. That's literally my wind shear. Like, I'm still within my... Okay, now I'm out of range. This would be a 30-yard radius from here to my training dummy that I'm targeting right now. That's a huge amount of distance in comparison to the short 12 yards that we had in the previous build, I guess, compared to the new one that's coming out. So, super excited for this change. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Now, on top of that, Wind Fury Weapon and Flame Tongue, another quality of life change, no longer require you to click the button and then click the weapon that you want to enchant and then press accept. Click the button, click the weapon, then press accept. So this is great because if you could imagine you forgot to reapply your weapon imbues, like before you pulled the boss and it's about to run out, now I can just click my keybind for it and then it's going to give me my buffs back. Fantastic. Very good. Good quality of life. Similar Lightning Shield change now has a 50% chance to grant you a Maelstrom weapon stack when damaged to an enemy. Again, this is a really great leveling, I guess, change, but not really in raid or dungeons if your Lightning Shield is not proccing on damage that you're taking or still has a chance to proc on damage that you take. It's only when I take melee damage. Like, that's not the best. Flame Shock and Frost Shock have their cooldowns shortened by your current haste. Fantastic. Fantastic. A lot of people may say in the comment section, like, oh my god, like, that's a really good change, but like, dude, what about Ellie? Like, that would be really cool on Ellie to reduce the Flame Shock cooldown for Elemental Shaman, especially with the Fire Elemental change. And I agree with you, but it kind of is lopsided to enhance. When we get into the talents, I'll show you why. I'll show you why. So Boulder Fist, hold on, I'm just gonna check something real quick. Boulder Fist talent has been redesigned and renamed to Lashing Flames. It's not the Lashing Flames that we have currently on live, but Lava Lash now increases the damage of your Flame Shock on the target by an additional 100% for 12 seconds. So Flame Shock is actually becoming more and more useful in enhancement. They're adding it back as an iconic ability for enhancement, and it's just gonna be great. I don't know how it's gonna compare to Forceful Winds. Maybe there's gonna be a really cool Lava Lash ability or Lava Lash build, I guess we call it. Elemental Blast is still not really that good, unfortunately. And Landslide talent has been redesigned and renamed to Storm Fury. So each time Wind Fury weapon attacks, the cooldown of Storm Strike is reduced by 1 second. So this is cool. This is really cool. Now we have a Lava Lash build with, I guess, Lashing Flames, replacing Boulder Fist, and Hot Hand. So now we have 2 talents that are working together, and then also Forceful Winds that's working with the new Storm Fury talent that's replacing Landslide. So like, holy crap, synergies. When does this ever happen for Shaman? So Wind Fury causes each successive Wind Fury attack within 15 seconds to increase the damage of your Wind Fury. So yeah, now we just have like a Wind Fury build and then a Lava Lash Flame Shock build, which is really cool, just between 2 talents, 2 talent rows. And then you can mix and match them depending on what scales better. Also, Hailstorm has been renamed to Cycle of Elements. So that's this one here, where Storm Strike now resets the cooldown of your shocks. This is important. Hailstorm is going to be so important in specific builds, and we'll get into that. Syrian Assault talent redesigned and renamed to Hailstorm, okay? And each stack of Maelstrom weapon consumed increases the damage of your next Frost Shock by 50% and causes your next Frost Shock to hit 1 additional target per stack of Maelstrom weapon consumed. Remember, maximum 5 stacks. So even though we go up to 10 stacks, they're still target capping this Frost Shock cleave damage to 5 targets, which, I mean, like, depending on the scaling of that, I think the target cap is totally okay, depending on the scaling of like Frost Shock. Because if we remember, the way that they changed the interaction between Maelstrom weapon affected abilities, even though they're reducing the baseline damage of abilities altered by Maelstrom weapon, I think this is also affecting Frost Shock technically if you are talented into Hailstorm. So talenting into Hailstorm may reduce the base damage of your Frost Shock, but it will give you that added bonus of Frost Shocking up to 5 targets. Oh, technically up to 6, because we're Frost Shocking 5 additional targets by consuming 5 Maelstrom weapon stacks. So you're Frost Shocking your current target, and then up to 5 additional ones that are near that target. So I don't know exactly how the interactions between the Maelstrom weapon changes is going to affect your base damage if you're expecting to Hailstorm, but we'll see. I'm going to be testing it when the build actually goes live, and then we'll make a video. So that's happening to Syrian Assault. That's changing over to Hailstorm. And then Overcharge talent redesigned and renamed to Fire Nova. Oh, I'm so excited. Fire Nova has a 15-second cooldown and causes all of your flame shocks to erupt in flames, dealing fire damage to up to 6 targets near your flame shock targets. This is so freaking cool, man. I'm so glad Fire Nova is coming back. It is such an iconic spell. We had it in Mists of Pandaria. We had it in Cataclysm. It was so satisfying to just spread your flame shocks with Lava Lash back in the day, and then just Fire Nova, and it just hits. Everything explodes like a living bomb, but everybody had living bomb. It was ridiculous. So remember when I said that Hailstorm, that's getting renamed to Cycle of Elements, is going to play an important role? This is what I'm talking about. So right now, if I Flame Shock, Storm Strike, Flame Shock comes off cooldown, Storm Strike, Flame Shock comes off cooldown, Storm Strike. Now I have 3 targets that are affected by Flame Shock. What am I gonna do now? Oh, I'm gonna press Fire Nova and it's gonna hit up to 6 nearby enemies within 4 GCDs. If I get really good procs, if I get really good Stormbringer procs and I reset the cooldown of my Storm Strike like 3 times, man, like I could have potentially up to 5 targets affected by Flame Shock before I Fire Nova. That is a lot of damage. That is a lot of damage. A lot of damage. So like there is this beautiful Flame Shock, Lava Lash, Fire Nova build that's coming out, but there's also this really cool Maelstrom weapon, Forceful Winds, Landslide getting changed to Storm Fury, and then we have like this awesome Frost Shock Cleave potential as well. Such cool changes. I'm really excited about these. It's definitely hyping me up for Enhance. I can't wait to play the new build. And honestly, like if there's going to be some talent changes, it definitely had to happen to Enhance over Elemental. I felt like Elemental had some already really good stuff going for it, aside from maybe Earth and Rage and Elemental Blast not really having a place anymore, especially with a lot of our damage being implemented back into Lava Burst. Echo the Elements is on top again, essentially, for how important that talent is. But anyway, I'm super excited about these changes. I hope you guys are too. Definitely leave a comment down below. Like the video if you like it. Subscribe for more Elemental Shaman or just Shaman content in general. And just to let you guys know, I'm going to be linking the link to my Twitch channel down below in the description of this, as well as the Wowhead article itself, where you guys can go and look at the changes yourself on your own time, of course. And yeah, can't wait to do more Shaman content. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, keep calm and Maelstrom on. Bye-bye. Or I guess Fulmination on. Huh. Maelstrom weapon on?